In today's socially connected and fast-paced world, you will want to succeed and stand out from the competition. Your host, Jonathan Butler, is an award-winning chef, restaurateur and author, and is known for shaking up the everyday within our highly competitive industry. Welcome to the Disruptive Restaurateur podcast.
Welcome to the Disruptive Restaurateur. I'm John Butler, and today I'm talking to Scott Russell, who is the founder and CEO of Paddy and Scott's. How are we doing, Scott?
I'm incredibly well, sir. Very fit and healthy.
Well, as you're just saying, you're about to, in a bit, you're going to be moving 1.5 tons of coffee.
Yeah, 1,500 kilos of coffee, so 1.5 metric tons. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All by
well, that's it's all good. So obviously, tell us a bit about the background to Paddy and Scott's, how it all kind of came about, and just a bit about the business.
Sure. Well, I spent 18 years in the city building tech companies, and had the opportunity in 2008 to get out of London and sell my equity stake in the business. And, relatively young guy, wanted to do something, and I had a passion for coffee. And I thought, you know what, why don't I roll some of this energy, this caffeinated energy, because I lived on coffee, into a coffee business. And that was way back in actually 2007. And for the first year or so, Paddy and I just run it from my garage. And then I joined the company full-time 2 years later. Yeah. And we built a brand. And we are a brand. And I was going to say, because that's probably the big thing about you guys, isn't it? It's not just about the coffee, is it? Your branding is pretty phenomenal. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think that coffee is a byproduct of what we do. We do some really awesome stuff. But we have 52 million watch minutes on our YouTube channel. We have hundreds of thousands of subscribers that, follow the Paddy and Scott's journey from our farm in Kenya to work that we're doing currently with the NHS, fueling our frontline workers. So, and at the end of the day, there's a decent cup of coffee. So, we're much more than just a coffee producer. We are a brand, and our stakeholders are our team, the people that run and work in the business.
Yeah. And if we obviously go back, because obviously when, obviously you set up, and obviously with a lot of other coffee brands and companies out there, obviously they buy the beans, they get them shipped over to wherever, they roast them, do whatever, bag them up and then sell them. But you guys are a bit different, aren't you?
Yeah, well, first of all, we don't roast. Actually, that's one big thing. We contract roast our coffee with a family-run business that have been doing it for 150 years. So we have our recipe and we have our blend, and we've been working with these roasters for over a decade. But yes, we grow the coffee as well. So we have a farm project in Kenya, working with the Machomba family, and this is a growing project that incorporates around about 500 people on the project. And we also have a school adjacent to the farm that's part of the project, where we look to build and enhance and feed 526 children.
Wow. And how did that come about? Was that, again, you just thinking a bit differently, or was it, was that always part of the plan?
I couldn't believe how little the farmer was paid for the coffee. We were paying, we'd go to our broker, he went to the secondary broker, he went to the hedge fund manager, he went to the banker trading these options on the world market. And then, we would put an order in, and I had no idea where this coffee was coming from. And we talk about direct trade, but that's very, let's buy coffee for a year, because it's very trendy to buy a Guatemalan coffee, but then it may be trendy to buy another coffee another year. So that doesn't build longevity with the farmers. So I just thought, what if we could create a community where clients could deal direct with the farm, and let's build a long-term community, not for a year, not for 2 years, but let's talk about decades. Let's put a 10-year plan in place. Let's pick a region where we could work with and get our customers embroiled in what we're doing. And we set up the project 4 years ago. We're just about to renew it for another 5 years before we take on some more land to cultivate for more coffee. So yeah, in an ideal world, I'd like all of my coffee produced on our own farm projects. That's not the case. Only about 20% of the coffee that we ship out at the moment comes from our own projects. We still have to buy coffee. 80% of our coffee is bought around the world. But the way I buy coffee now is completely different than when I first started. Because now I understand the supply chain. I understand how much the farmers get paid. I know how much the greedy brokers are making from this trade. And I understand how often my coffee is being traded around the world while it's shipped. That I can stop all that now. So we have some amazing projects, but I won't, I can talk wax lyrical for hours on that.
I think that's the, because obviously, how, was that an easy process, or has there been challenges to sort of, get to that stage along the way?
No, it was really hard. I mean, it was, where do you start? I mean, do you start in South America? Do you start in Vietnam? Do you start in, where do you go? Africa? And, we're talking about places around the world that, we're not talking, buying some wine from Tuscany. We're talking about some pretty shitty places around the world where, the hard currency could be dollars and a Kalashnikov. You have to be really careful. We visited some pretty severe places, and we had protection, and we were worried about kidnapping, and we had some interesting conversations with farmers in South America, and I think they wanted us to fund the growing of another crop. Right. and we were pretty quick to get out of that country, and but yeah, and we ended up in Africa. We ended up in East Africa, and then we ended up in Kenya, and it was the best move we ever made. And the Machomba family, like my family, we regularly spend time in the farm, and we break bread with the family. And Isaac, it's just amazing. It's chicken soup for the soul. Really, it's more than coffee. It's just this whole, and when you visit our farm, when you visit the projects, which customers do, then it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing.
Yeah, and obviously, because you've built a school, or
the school was already there, but it was very, very dilapidated. There was no running water, there was no toilets, there was no hand washing facilities, there was no glass in the classrooms, there was no roof. Well, there was roof, but it was a tin roof that was leaking. And we've completely refurbished the school. New roof, new glass. We put in a water feed, toilet blocks, washing facilities. We've built new food hall. We've cultivated and we've created a model working farm on the school where the children can learn about modern farming techniques. They can learn how to grow coffee without pesticides, without using so much copper sulfate. And they're learning that coffee can be an honest, profitable crop if they can get paid more money for it. And that's the challenge for us. This is the whole idea of the project, to get people like you, the consumers, buying direct from the farm. So a lot more of the value chain ends up with the farmers. And I'm going to do that until it bloody kills me.
Yeah. So why don't the other, obviously you've got your big brands, why aren't they sort of investing in that way, or are they, but we just don't hear about it? Or do they just use the traditional methods? Is it that you've tried to disrupt it in such a way?
I think it's that there are established supply chains for the big companies, and there are, as I said, there's lots of people that make a lot of money along the way. The brokers, the hedge fund managers, the traders trading these options on the world market. When you start to destabilize that as a Costa, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, then things are difficult to unravel. And secondly, they cannot be embroiled in projects that we're involved in, because let's say that there was some bad press. How do you deal with that if you're a big corporate? If we get somebody that steals a bag of beans, then we can normally deal with that, and we can don't come back and work with us. But luckily, we've not had that. And Paddy and Scott's is nimble. It's dynamic. We don't give a shit about rules. We'll make our own rules. Just because that's the traditional supply chain doesn't mean we need to follow it. And we're brave enough to do that. And our brand is about fueling ambition. It's what we are. You cut us in half. It's ambition. And our logo is fueling ambition. And we do that through, and that permeates through everything we do.
Yeah, well, obviously, because like I say, I came across you guys last year, and I was doing some work for a company I'm a non-exec director for, and we were looking for a new coffee supplier, and I met with Costa, I met with Coffee Republic, and then I met with you guys, and without doubt, like you say, our sites were, we've got a leisure centre, we've got an art gallery. So you kind of think, well, if we dropped a Costa in there, yeah, probably done very, very well. Everybody recognise it, away you go. But it becomes more than that. And I say, when you start to talk to, sort of bit of a faceless rep from Costa or whatever, and they just go, yeah, this is a bum, bum, bum. But obviously I met Martin, and obviously, you just get sucked in by, like you say, your branding is brilliant. Your let's say your ambition, that whole passion, I think, is the best thing that comes through. It's with every person I've ever spoke to in your business are absolutely passionate. How do you achieve that?
Well, someone always said to me, Scott, why is it everybody I meet at Paddy and Scott's are passionate, ambitious, committed to the cause? And I say, because I only employ people that are passionate, committed, and ambitious, and that's it. So Paddy and Scott's, when you're a good company, you attract good people. When you put good people with other good people, then you really start to get a momentum. And when you do good stuff with good people that are all working together for a common cause, Christ, you've got a steam train then. And it's moving forward. And as you're moving forward, you're picking up momentum. And we won't lose a contract to Starbucks, Cafe Nero, Costa. Of course not. Because if the client is not brave enough for us, we're not right for them. It's just as simple as that. So let those boys fight for that, because the consumer wants to support companies like Paddy and Scott's. The consumer is the one that's driving this momentum, not us. We're just feeding the flame. We're feeding the furnace. The consumers want to know, are you getting your fingers dirty, Scott? Is there mud under your fingernails? What are you doing? And you can follow that's why we've got millions of people that watch our YouTube channel, because it's real. It's me. I'm planting trees. I'm, teaching in the classroom. We're sitting with the families, and you can see where the money is going to. And you're standing in a high street, my friend, and you see Paddy and Scott's, or you see Costa. What are you going to go into? You're a consumer, you can go into Paddy and Scott's. So, it's not just us driving this, it's the consumer. And I tell you what, if you mess around with the consumer, then you know what, you're in trouble. You really are. Yeah.
No, well, without doubt. And I think we're seeing it at the minute, aren't we? Obviously, this last sort of few weeks where we've been, in the lockdown and stuff, and, certain brands, without naming anybody who's got an island out in the British Virgin Islands, but he's taking quite a battering, isn't he? Now, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but like you say, it's sort of, what brands do now is quite important, isn't it? I think in times like this, like you say, the consumer, I think, is now maybe more, I suppose, more intelligent, should we say? I think for years, brands almost treated the consumer a bit sort of stupid, really, didn't they? Sort of like, we'll put it in front of them and they'll buy it, whatever it might be. But it seems, certainly the last few years, but certainly in the last few weeks, from what I've seen, I think now consumers are a lot more savvy in how obviously they're getting their information, and then obviously how they're processing that, and then how they're going to proceed going forward. Do you think that's about right?
Yeah, look, a brand isn't a logo. A brand actually isn't even a product. A brand is how it makes you feel. It's how you interact. It's what that company does. It's what you stand for. It's talking to your friends in the pub because you've had a Paddy and Scott's brew bag that's made from cornstarch, which means you can recycle it, you can compost it, you can put the package in your recycle bin. This is what a brand stands for. It's got nothing to do, ironically, with the product. That is just a byproduct. It's everything and nothing, and it's hard to get this conundrum. It's hard to get your head around that. But try to the consumer, trick them at your peril. because they will know, they can search anything now within milliseconds. So everything you do has to be honest, everything you do has to be real, and everything you do has to be for the good and the cause of the business. If it's not ambitious, if it's not growing your team, your goals, then don't do it, because it will be a diversion and it won't be authentic. Authenticity will be the new currency when we get out of this shitstorm.
Yeah. No, definitely. So obviously on that in a minute, what are you guys obviously, doing at the moment? What's, obviously, because let's be honest, most of your coffee shops have closed, well, have all closed. So obviously how did you, first of all, how did you react, initially as a business when this kind of first kicked off? What was the sort of process that you went through?
I mean, shock, first of all. Obviously, the build-up was relatively slow and then really fast. I think what you got to understand, my friend, is that we've had 95% of our revenue turned off.
Yeah.
So we produce coffee for hotels, bars, restaurants, pubs, travel hubs, universities, government HQs. Everything has stopped. The government has stopped my business. So I've never known a situation where government guidance stopped me from doing my job. So it's a tough time, an incredibly tough time for our industry, really tough. So what you do is that you lick your wounds and then you start to kick the tires of your business. You start to protect what little revenue that you do have coming in. And with our case, that's web sales. So our web sales are up nearly 800%. We've had to refurbish our website and change the way that people order because it was crashing and we couldn't get out the orders in time. So we've spent a lot of time with our web team developing our new web shop, and it is unbelievable now. It's like an experience. There are online tutorials, there are video blogs on there, there are recipes for our coffee, there's one-touch buying with your thumb. There's some really cool stuff that we've built within 3 weeks. I mean, because I've got a team of great people. What do they want to do? Let's get them working on this. So that's been a really exciting time. And then keeping in touch with my customers. I've had some amazing support from our customers. Karen Bosher from Green King, William Lees from JW Lees, Simon, CEO of Byron Burger, yesterday was online wearing a Paddy and Scott's t-shirt. We've had some amazing support from all of our customers. And, when you get little messages saying, don't worry, Scott, we're going to be with you when we get out the other end, just stay tough. That just means $1 million, my friend. It really does. And to have those those messages of support from our customers means that we're doing something right. And then just manage your costs. Speak to your suppliers. We've put all of our suppliers, we're going to pay every one of our suppliers, but we can't pay you all up front. So we've agreed a 2-month, 3-month, 4-month, 6-month plan, depending on how strapped for cash our suppliers are. And if they're a small independent engineer, then we'll try and pay you within 2 months. So, and I've had overwhelming support for that. And we can cash flow that. We can get through that. So I think you kick the tires of the business. You look at your customers more lovingly and appreciatively. And I think that we will come out at the end a much stronger company. And I think that it'll be different, but it certainly won't be the end of us, without a shadow of a doubt.
And do you think, like you say, that for all businesses, this is going to be an interesting time, isn't it? Because the ones that have taken their time to do all of that process, look at their operations, look at the costings, look at the business, maybe it is a time to get rid of the stuff that hasn't been working, that has just been ticking along for however long. This is a time where you've got to lean it up. But then going forward, like as you say, you'll have a much better business than what you had, 5-6 weeks ago.
Yeah, the business will be better. And I think that I'm much more appreciative of my team, my staff. I think that the way that we communicate with our clients will change. The fact that you and I now are doing this meeting remotely via a conference call is good. And I think that online portals for our customers to download point of sale material, trial new flavours, try new products, but less interaction, more automated, I think is going to be the way forward, because it's more cost effective, number one. And number two, we can control it better. I think that we're going to probably see an era where there aren't going to be so many reps on the road. I think we're going to see an era where there's going to be less interaction, but more doing stuff. And I think that's going to be a brave new world. And, we work in the hospitality industry. So those guys are going to have to work with us, I think.
Yeah, and how do you kind of see that change? Obviously, there's loads of things being muted here, there, and everywhere. Hospitality is going to be last to open. Clearly, there's already been some casualties. They were probably struggling before this, and this has just kind of obviously put the nail in the coffin, as it were. But it is going to be different, isn't it, when we do finally get to this reopening stage? What do you think is going to be the major drivers for businesses going forward?
I think that just adapting to a new world. I think that the biggest challenge that people are going to be affected in their pocket, the normal working person, your average Joe, is going to have their income slashed. So where they may take their wife out for a meal on a Saturday night or a Friday night, I think they may think twice about that. I think that there's going to be a slower return. I think there's going to be one damn brilliant party. Don't get me wrong. When we all can go back, I think there's going to be this
big boom, and then it's
massive boom. I think that's going to be amazing, amazing time. And look, I don't know, and anybody that can foresee or even, I don't think we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. What I do know is that if you look after your team, if you look after your customers, if you are open and honest with them, if you continue to work and trade and your ethics don't change, then I think that you'll come out of it. I think there will be some casualties, but I honestly don't know. And I'm rarely stumped for words, but I wouldn't like to hazard where it's going to be. One thing is for sure, we're going to carry on drinking coffee. One thing for sure, we're going to carry on going out for meals. And one thing is for sure, we're going to carry on drinking beer. So let me tell you now, that won't change.
No.
Just how we do that is going to be slightly different.
Yeah, because there's been, obviously, like I say, Brewdog were really innovative with the online, sort of virtual pub, haven't they? And those sort of things might carry on, which would be quite fun, because I suppose there is always an at-home drinking element in that industry. But, obviously on the coffee thing, that has seen a meteoric rise in the last 20, 25 years. Yeah. What's the driver behind that? Is it just because people love drinking coffee, or is there, is it driven because of brand and stuff and just it's trendy? What's kind of really is behind that?
I think culturally, so it's a culture. It's people. 20 years ago, my mum and dad would say, "Shall we meet for a glass of wine?" Or "Let's grab a glass of wine after work." Now it's "Let's grab a coffee." So I think culturally, it's been driven by the fact that coffee is healthy. A long black Americano has more antioxidants than tea. And guys, challenge me if there's anybody tea out there. Challenge me. I'll take you up on that challenge. Okay. So
I am a tea drinker over a coffee drinker, but
So I'm happy to prove those facts that I say. I think that the rise of the speciality coffee is also bringing new people into the frame. And I think that kids now tend to be drinking less alcohol, but they still want to socialise. So you tend to go and mix in a coffee shop, and this sort of third, fourth wave of coffee shops where it also becomes your office as well. So if you're working from home, or you're a sole trader, or you're a consultant, do you sit in your office, or do you go and sit in a coffee shop? And I think that the latter is more appealing. And also restaurants, bars. Remember, we work with some amazing pubs. The JW's Brewing Group, where we work with Breckspear, amazing business. Green King. These are brilliant businesses that are stretching their proposition to include coffee, and using coffee as a driver for getting people to book meals in the evening, for extending opening hours, even doing takeaway as well. So there's a whole industry there that are tapping into this coffee culture, and they're doing it really well. I mean, the aforementioned companies I mentioned there, they're good. Their baristas are good. Their machinery is good. Their branding is on point. So and this is our hunting ground. That's who we're working with.
Well, because it has changed, hasn't it? Because, like I say, years ago, you coffee in a pub would be pretty shit, really, wouldn't it? It'd be like probably a filter, and not very good, bought from whoever, dropped off, and nobody have any idea really of what to do with it. But it had, like you say, now you've got to have the proper machinery, you've got to have the proper training. That is as important as the beer and everything else that's alongside it.
And you can't cannibalise revenues. It takes 90 seconds to make a good flat white. and it's sort of, that's about the same time it takes to pour a Guinness. And again, I'm probably going to be critiqued over that. So you need to train queue management. You need to look at, how do you encourage people to have a coffee, let's say at the end of the meal, or you encourage people to have a coffee queue. And so all of this clever queue management, just putting a coffee machine in a pub could cause you problems. But if you get it right, it's amazing. And there was a fantastic article written, and it will come to me in a minute, but it was the best latte in Manchester. And you had all of these really cool little coffee shops, but number 3 was a pub, and it was Buttons of Manchester, and it won the best place for a latte. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, wow, that's showing you that when these industries take coffee seriously, they can challenge the traditional marketplace. So, you know what, long may it continue. And a cup of coffee is what, £2.50, £3, depending on where you go. It's an affordable luxury. And I think that people will probably continue to consume their coffee, but better quality coffee. You can't get away serving a shit cup of coffee anymore. Yeah.
It still amazes me how much people will pay for a coffee. When I had my pubs years ago, people had moaned that it was £3 a pint. And obviously every year, but every year we had to put it up by 10p or whatever because of the tax going up. And it's like, every moan, and then I'm thinking, you'll come, now you'll spend £3.50 on a bloody coffee or even a hot chocolate these days, and it's just like absolutely crazy. So it always amazes me. What I was going to say is where, you've been, obviously you came in and you have disrupted the industry. There's no doubt about it in the way that you've gone about it. Was that intentional, or was it just, this is the way I want to do it? Or did you look for actually, that's the way obviously we talked about the supply chain being traditional, but you've not just disrupted the supply chain, you've kind of disrupted the whole process with, the way you brand and everything else. Is it all intentional, or is it just, it just goes with the flow type thing?
If you take away boundaries and rules and you just say to your team, just create something that's going to blow your mind, and you get some real creative juices flowing. And as the CEO and the founder, it's not me that's driving this business, it's the team that are driving the business. My job is just to steer it and just to flick the bow at the back to make sure we're going in the right direction. But there's no such thing as a bad idea, and there's no such thing as a bad design. And you know what, guys, let's come up with some really cool, funky stuff. And let's, why don't we allow people to own a tree? Let's do that. Let's create a project where you can build, plant your own tree and go and harvest it. And wouldn't that be great? And we did it. We've got 4,000 membership plots. And, what if people turn up at the farm? Well, that's great. Let them turn up. We'll embrace them. So lo and behold, a couple of journalists turned up at the farm. It was the best PR we've ever had. They got to pick coffee from their tree. They went and saw the family. They were, their mind was blown of what we were doing. So we never set out to disrupt. We're just a fun company that will disrupt by the very nature of how we do things. And it's not constrained to coffee. I disrupted the telephony healthcare market. Before that, I disrupted the national plumbing marketplace. So, being a disruptor is just a byproduct of doing things without boundaries and constraints.
Yeah. And is there ever been an idea that's been pitched to you and you go, well, no, we can't do that? Or is it just, do you just go with it?
There's a great one about I'm a pilot, I'm a private pilot, and there was a great idea about flying people from Norwich to London City Airport, and we was going to create this Paddy and Scott shuttle service, and it was going to be the perfect breakfast en route from Norwich to London City Airport. And we worked out the time that we could serve this fresh baked croissant, the barista style coffee, and it would just be this breakfast club. And we did all the planning, and then we realised that the Civil Aviation Authority wouldn't allow us to use a pressurised vessel on a plane. So we couldn't put a coffee machine on there. So if you can't put a coffee machine on a plane, then the whole breakfast club didn't work. So that was a pretty crazy idea that never got off the ground. But I've got a whole plethora of ideas like that. But some of them are gems. Some of them are gems.
Well, we'll keep watching this space, see what happens. So, so obviously recently you've been, I think you said you're probably now busier than ever. You're still obviously shifting loads of coffee in and out of the warehouse. You're doing a lot with the NHS now. What's kind of, what's sort of happening at the moment? How have you kind of pivoted the business?
Well, that was just sort of, we've got stock that needs to move. And although coffee doesn't really go out of date, you get to a level where you've maybe got 3, 4, 5 or 6 months worth of shelf life on a particular product. And we don't know how long this lockdown is going to be. So we started sort of shipping out some coffee to, we started off at a hospital in Liverpool, the intensive care unit. And then that one person spoke to another person, and eventually we got a team of volunteers creating care packs for the NHS workers, and we've now been delivering those within our county to quite a few sites. And we worked out about 11,000 cups of coffee we've given away now to the NHS through this programme, and it's free. We're not charging for it. It's all volunteer based, and that's been great fun, because if you give something away from, and the chances are now that those consumers, when they do want to buy coffee, will probably go back online and buy coffee from us. So our brew bags have been incredibly popular. So we've given out thousands of brew bags, cafetiere sachets, tea. Birchall's have been brilliant, actually, been very, very good. Louise from Tea Pigs has been fantastic. Great advocate of our brand, and, given away some stuff. We've had, protein bars that are going into our packs that have been given for free. We've been given samples of crisps and all sorts of things. So, if we've got a very small, depleted staff working now. As I said, I'm the only one that's working, but we've got a team of volunteers now. It's nice to know that they're being supported with goodwill.
Yeah. And obviously, what's the kind of future for you guys? Obviously now you've got a brilliant website for retail purposes, which is great. That's an upside. Because your business is primarily sort of concessions, I suppose, isn't it? And you supply coffee into the trade.
So it's the core business actually is hotels, bars, and restaurants. So if you probably drink we produce at peak about 70,000 cups of coffee per day. So it's a lot of coffee that we're churning out and distributing into the UK. The chances are you wouldn't even know you were drinking Paddy and Scott's coffee if you walked into a Marriott hotel, for example. The whole of the Marriott hotel infrastructure within the UK use our coffee. Some are branded, some aren't. And then we operate concessions. You're absolutely spot on. But a concession could be a little small farm shop or deli in your village that just puts a Paddy and Scott sign up and just has a bit of branding, all the way through to a flagship store that you'd think you were walking into a Paddy and Scott's, empire, but in actual fact, it's run and operated by the concession partner. So that's our route to market.
And is there any plans for you to sort of, create your own sort of shops, or are you purely working on that model that you don't want to have your own sort of, like Costa does, where they have their own and then distribute their own product? Or is that the best model for your business?
A good question, and I'm asked this all the time, and never say never. It's not on our current plan to do that. However, if I was approached by somebody, if I ever release some equity to a partner who wanted to do that, then I would be receptive to talking. I think that for us, we're really good at what we do, and we know what we do, and we do it pretty damn well. And I think if I start spreading myself too thin and opening up coffee shops as well as trying to support concessions and our trade partners, I think that that would be quite difficult to do. Not hard to do, certainly not impossible, but you need to fund that, and you need to be able to cash flow that. Maybe if I'm ever bought in the future, maybe that'll be a route that someone will take with our brand, because what a disruptive brand it could be on the high street.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. So, and what would you, I suppose, what would you think that coffee shops need to do differently then in terms of where they are now and sort of what they should be doing?
I think there's going to be a bigger demand for click and collect, so buy with an app and then collect. I think that more healthy food is really important. I think faster, less wastage. I think that you'll be gauged on your packaging now just as much as the products that go in the packaging. So creating compostable, creating recyclable packaging is really, really important. And that's really expensive for us to do that in our own 2 little concept stores, but it has to be done. I think brand loyalty. I think being able to consume their coffee at home when they want to, with the same experience as consuming it on the high street, is going to be another challenge. But I think we're addressing that. And I think that just look after your customers. We have a system where we comp, and we have to give away so many coffees per day to someone you feel needs it or wants it. And just engage with your consumers. Don't look at the consumer as just a revenue stream. They're not. They are the beating heart and soul and body of your business. So look after them.
Yeah. I think that's massively important, isn't it? That experience, and it is about experiences now, isn't it? People want to go into places and have that whole rounded experience. And you talked about just improving even the experience online now as well. So you've got to be able to have almost a similar sort of experience as you would online as you would if you went into a physical store. And that's quite important.
And the experience has to be the same. The music has to be the same. You can't just do click to buy. How do you make a tiramisu from your coffee? What pairs really nice after a meal? Scott, these are all video tutorials that we're bringing on board now, and it dovetails really nicely into the supply of the coffee. And coffee on the go, our brew bags, we can't produce enough of them. They're amazing because you need a kettle. That's all you need. Yeah. And you can make yourself a craft coffee with a kettle. It's just amazing. So, don't leave home without your brew bag. Don't leave home without, don't go camping without your brew bag. And these whole thing, you think, Christ, I didn't think I could have great coffee when I'm camping. Yes, you can. So all of that, just treating the consumer as a portal to drive money through your website won't work. You have to give them the experience where when they go onto your website, they feel that they're engaging with you and they feel rewarded for their custom. And I think that's the key to making your website successful.
Yeah. So, obviously, normally I sort of say to sort of guests, ask them sort of what do they think is disrupting, us at the moment. But, clearly, obviously, the whole situation, we don't know where it's going to go. I agree with you. Obviously, like I say, people are still going to want to drink coffee. They're still going to want to drink beer. They're still going to want to eat out. It is going to be a very different to begin with. But, there's no doubt we're a very resilient industry, aren't we? And, we've been through difficult times before. We're going to hit, quite clear we're going to hit a recession. Over the next sort of few months. But I suppose it's how you position yourself, to come out of that the right way, isn't it?
Hey, look, my grandparents used to talk about the war and the Blitz and the British spirit and all that sort of thing. And I was too young to really understand what that meant. But, I'm sensing it now. And I'm, the support and the way the communities have come together during the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks has been amazing. And there's so much goodwill and there's so much great support for each other, which we haven't seen since the like of the Second World War. And history has taught us we will get back to normal. We will build again. We will do it. And it's just a road bump. It's a hiatus, but we will get back, and good businesses will survive and prosper. And you know what? That's the light at the end of the tunnel. And and if we can keep beating that drum, then other people will start to beat that drum, and we will create this momentum, and we will come out the other end. Trust me, we will come out the other end.
Well, a huge number of businesses were built through recession, weren't they? And through difficult times like this. You talk about your business obviously starting out in a garage. Well, so did Amazon, didn't it? So it's kind of, it is that kind of thing, isn't it? It's at these times, I suppose, where we do go, right, what are the opportunities? What's the right way to do it? How do you improve it? How do you, let's say the old guard have done whatever and maybe not doing it right. How can we do it better? And how do we, take it forward?
Yeah. And you know what? It's for me to sit here and try and give you my pearls of wisdom is, what's it going to be like when we get out the other end? Nobody knows. And we've tried to cash flow model our business. We've tried to look at our reduced income. It's certainly reduced income. And, what does our business look like from a staffing perspective? What does it look like from a distribution perspective? And I don't know. I'm putting my finger in the air, and I really don't know. Yeah. I know that we're gonna get through this. I know that's a certain. That's a guaranteed. I know that I've got unwavering support from our customers, and that is amazing to hear. And I know the great British public will not be pushed down. They will not be held down. So you know what? We're blessed. We're in a blessed position.
Yeah.
And you know what? I say that honestly, because there's been horrendous, people dying is never fun, and it's hurt me to see this, and so please don't think I'm of course I accept that, but we do have to come out the other end, and commerce is important. We need businesses to trade after this. We can't afford to just sit there and follow for the next year. It's just not going to happen.
No, definitely. So what's your sort of, final sort of, words of wisdom? What sort of advice would you give to somebody at the minute? What should they kind of be focusing on doing? Obviously, clearly you've kept a very strong presence online, through your sort of, obviously, all your different social media channels. That's pretty important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think let people know that you're still around. Little care packages work. One of the first things we did was we reached out to all our customers and offered them some just care packs at home, some coffee at home. And believe it or not, they could have taken it, or they could have donated it to the NHS program that we were running. And 95% of them said no. Donate it to the NHS program. What a fantastic thing that you're doing. So just keep talking to your team, talking to your customers. It's tough paying your suppliers, especially with no income coming in. But don't not pay them. Say, look, I may owe you £1,000, but I can afford to pay you £300 this month, £300 next month, and £400 the month after. And commit to that and stick to that. I think that they'll like that. And I've had phone calls from our customers, big companies, that said, Scott, we need a bit of time to pay you. Are you okay with that? And of course we are. What I don't like is people not talking to us, because if money keeps moving, then money keeps moving. So my pearls of wisdom: just hanker down. We will come out the other end. Yeah. We will be stronger, but it is hard to see that at the moment. But trust me, we are a resilient bunch.
Yeah. So just finally, are you thinking then of going back to Brazil to invest in that other business so you can start on the CBD thing as well?
No.
Quite disruptive, wouldn't it? Coffee and
that really scared me, actually.
Coffee and cannabis.
Yeah, coffee and cannabis. I don't. I'm sure that there's going to be people making.
Do you see that as a big growth area though within the bit? Because obviously CBD oil and coffee is it's been quite a popular thing. Is that something that you guys are looking at, or is it something that you think not for you?
I mean, we looked at it and we saw a firm, and we took some samples of the coffee, and it was controlled CBD oil infusion post roast, actually, which was interesting. So the coffee was roasted, and as it was degassing, as it was cooling down, that they sprayed on the oil, and it's meant to seep into the bean, and then obviously they can control it. And we tried it, and I found it quite bitter. I don't know if that was because of the oil or not, but it wasn't a particularly nice tasting coffee. But I think that's nothing to do with the CBD oil. I think that was just the way it was roasted and then presented to us. But it's not my game, I don't think. We work with colleges, universities, and I still think that there's a connection there with cannabis, and there's a connection with drugs. So I don't know is the answer. It's let the professionals answer that question.
Okay, no, that's cool. No worries. All right. Well, like you say, how could it's obviously people can go to the Paddy and Scott's website. So that is just paddyandscotts.co.uk.
Yeah, I'll just Google us at paddyandscotts.co.uk. It's still our own web shop at the moment. So our new shop it goes live on Friday. So today is Tuesday. So we've got 3 more days. We've put it out to the marketplace, but by all means, at the moment, our Amazon shop is woken and live, so you can buy a coffee on our Amazon shop. You'll know it instantly. It's all Paddy and Scott's. It's very well branded, and lots of interactive videos on there. And then our own web shop is the same, actually. So you can try version 1 and let us know the experience after version 2. But just Google Paddy and Scott's or paddyandscotts.co.uk. And
then obviously you've got your YouTube stuff, which is brilliant. Like you say, there's so much on there. It's really, really good to watch. And hopefully you'll get, because you've got a new sort of training facility up and running, haven't you? Which hasn't been used yet, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's not been used. And we've got these amazing coffee machines from our friends at Conti. And they're all been custom built in these beautiful, wonderful colours. And it looks awesome there with we've got these video over the top of the machines, and so people we can critique their barista skills afterwards. And we've got so many clients ready to book in to use Ambition House. The music will be pumping.
I was going to say, I look forward to the Paddy and Scott's party when this is all over. 'Cause I think, you know,
you'll hear us 100 miles away, I promise you.
No,
so yeah, lots of exciting stuff there. No, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. Well, I really appreciate obviously you coming on, and it's been great. So I say we'll, you know, I think hopefully people just get a bit of inspiration from it that they can, you know, sort out for when we do get out the other side. Yeah, well, let's hope so. And look, be strong, everybody. Stay safe, and remember, you know, we will come out the other end, and we'll be strong. All right, my friend, you take care. Thanks very much. All right, cheers.